Welcome to another video from Lockdown Electronics with me, Bill, and this time we're going on yet another nostalgia trip because I was looking at some mid-90s electronics magazines on the rather excellent World Radio History website. I'll put a link to that in the description if you've not seen it. It's worth doing. And I came across I think it was Ham Radio Today, mid-90s edition, and in it I spotted a very simple device that essentially was just an oscillator, and it reminded me that 30 years ago we didn't have access to the kind of things that you can now get, this cheap Chinese tech and things like that just didn't exist. And so for me then, as somebody who enjoyed building things, I hadn't got an oscilloscope and I hadn't got a signal generator. I'd got a grid dip oscillator, but it's hardly an accurate signal source. It just gave me a rough idea. But this very simple device used very easy to obtain components to produce something that at the time would enable you to calibrate the tuning of anything that you were trying to build. And that got me thinking. So let's start by having a look at what these things were used for, and then look at the circuit itself. Okay, about 20 years ago I built this 7 megahertz transceiver for 40 meter band sideband transceiver from the very excellent Walford Electronics range of kits. Tim Walford still making kits. I'll put a link in the description. They're very good, so I would encourage you to take a look and possibly even get one and have a go. And his kits essentially were usually a receiver, which is the left hand side here, and a transmitter, which is the right, and they shared a VFO which allowed them to receiver and transmitter to be in tune with each other, so to speak. This is the Midney and the Kingston transmitter and receiver, or receiver and transmitter, reading from left to right, and I'm pleased to say it works rather well. Now it's varicap tuned, so the tuning control is quite simply a potentiometer on the front panel. Obviously no calibration there, and one of the things that you'd be faced with as an amateur constructor is the need to try and calibrate that dial, because you would need to know where you were in the band, particularly if you intended to transmit. And the device that I spotted in the Ham Radio Today magazine essentially is a calibration device that was designed to help you do that in I think a very cost-effective way. Now, just to think about the landscape when that magazine was produced about 30 years ago, we did not have access to, well, certainly hobbyists didn't really have access to lots of test equipment. You could get signal generators. They usually looked like that. I couldn't really have afforded one of them quite back then, but I certainly had a dip oscillator, and good though that signal generator is, and the dip oscillator is good too, they weren't precision devices for generating a precise frequency. There is actually a crystal connection on that signal generator to allow you to produce that facility, but not for the not for every hobbyist. It was simply too expensive. These days, of course, you can get something like a bit of Chinese tech, which is a Yuntech signal generator, goes up to 80 megahertz, 2-channel, and is actually quite remarkable for the money that you pay. Now, you can say what you like about this kind of Chinese tech, but that kind of instrument was just not available to us 30 years ago. And just to give you some idea, in a 1992 magazine, I found used 100 megahertz oscilloscopes for £435 from Display Electronics in London. Good company they were. I bought a composite video green screen monitor off them for my BBC Micro back in the 90s, and I remember going to the warehouse. It was an Aladdin's cave. £435 back in the early 90s is the same as £935 today. I couldn't have countenanced spending that kind of money on a second-hand instrument. And a couple of pages further on in that same magazine, Circuit was selling new oscilloscopes for $899. That's nearly £2,000 today. Absolutely no way that I was in the kind of income bracket that could have afforded that kind of thing for a hobby. So you can see why simple and easy to build devices were popular. So let's now have a look at the circuit which I spotted, and here is my version of the circuit brought up to date with modern components, and also I'm using capacitors that I've actually got rather than the ones they were quoting, and I'm using a 2N3904 MPN instead of the one that was in the original design. I think it was, I can't remember, sorry, not that it matters. And so what we've got here, surprise surprise, is a Colpitts oscillator with crystal control, and runs off about 9 volts, something like that, with RF out. So it should produce a nice strong fundamental, and then it should hopefully produce some harmonics that we can make use of as markers. But the really clever bit about this was that it used a crystal at 3.579 megahertz. Now that crystal was readily available at the time, because that's the NTSC North American video subcarrier frequency, and those crystals were produced in there, well, probably millions, so they were very easy to get hold of. And 3.579 is in the 80 meter ammeter band, so that would rather nicely give you a marker in your 80 meter transceiver that you might be receiving. Its second harmonic, 7.159, that's actually just outside the 40 meter band. It isn't anymore, that 40 meter band's bigger now, but at the time that would have given you a marker just above the top end of the band, which could also have been useful. And fourth harmonic was nicely in the 20 meter band. So yeah, for a very simple device using that crystal, you get yourself hopefully some accuracy. So I thought, well, it'd be interesting to have a go at this and see just how good it really is, and whether it would actually be usable. Now I hadn't got a 3.579 megahertz crystal. I'd got this one, 4.433619, if that's to be believed. I don't know where it's come from. It was in my junk box, so I soldered a couple of longer leads onto it, and let's see if we can make the circuit work with that. Now, not going to be any use for calibrating rigs, but this is just really to prove if the circuit works. So we're going to get 4.43, obviously the fundamental. We're going to get 8.8 something for a second harmonic, and a fourth harmonic at 17.7. So we'll just see if we can actually produce that kind of thing. Built it just on the breadboard. Appreciate that's not ideal for RF, but I kept it as compact as I could, and you can see it there. The big fuzzy splodge in the middle is the crystal, because that sticks out quite a bit above the board, but you can see the layout, and I've tried to keep it as close as possible to reduce any kind of spuri transistor at the bottom, and the output taken from the yellow lead sort of on the left hand side in the center. Okay, that's the circuit and the breadboard layout. Let's go and have a look at that on the bench. Okay, well, here's the circuit tickling away there on the breadboard, and not surprisingly there isn't very much to see. Bit of a boring view in one respect, but the oscillator is running. So let's first of all have a look at the frequency counter. You can see that here, and yeah, got a nice stable. The frequency counter has been on for about 15-20 minutes, as is the oscillator, so you can see it's nice and stable, which is always good to see. So let's now move the input from the frequency counter across to the spectrum analyzer, and here's a plot from the spectrum analyzer. I've got 20 dB of attenuation, sorry, 10 dB of attenuation built in. I've just got the scope probe attached to the input. It's on, scope probe is on ×1, and there's 10 dB of attenuation, so it's telling me there that the first peak on the left there, it's got a marker 1 on it, 4.435 megahertz at minus 23 dBm, give or take 0.01 dBm, so that's your fundamental. And then you can see there's some nice clear harmonics. Got a bandwidth of 1 kilohertz here, so you can see that the it's pretty quiet from a noise point of view in between the peaks, which is nice. So if we now pop the peak mode, if we now go to the next peak, so we're minus 23 dBm there per peak 1. If we now go to next peak, minus 32, so it's about 10 dB less, the second harmonic, up on 8.87 megahertz. That would have been, with the right crystal, that would have been the 40 meter band. 13.3 megahertz here at minus 40 dBm, so not quite so much loss there onto the third harmonic, and the fourth harmonic there at 17.7. and after that you can see they do start to tail off quite dramatically. That one there, that is actually at minus 62 dBm. So if we look at that first peak a little more closely, and if we go into span and zoom in a little, you can see I've got a span there now of well, let's go into that's about 70 kilohertz, that span, and I'm going to just reduce the bandwidth down to 100 hertz. That's 30 hertz actually there we're living with. So you can see, yeah, it's actually doing rather nicely, so it's a nice clean output. Right, that's the view from the spectrum analyzer of the oscillator, and I think for such a simple circuit built just on a breadboard with not really any effort put into to looking after any screen or anything like that, it's doing remarkably well, and it's remarkably stable. So yeah, well done ham radio today. That's a nice little design, brought up to date, albeit with a crystal that I had to hand rather than the American television frequency crystal, which it was originally intended to use. Well, of course, it's all very well looking at the output of the oscillator on a spectrum analyzer or a frequency counter, but as I said at the beginning, not many of us had access to that kind of equipment 30 odd years ago. It wasn't so easy to get your hands on it, so building something like that would have enabled you to test your rig out, and one thing the rig would not have had was a nice digital display. Now, even though this is the Microbit X radio, which runs off an Arduino, and it's a HF radio which has appeared before on the channel, the nice colour display with the frequencies, of course, courtesy of the processor in the Arduino, and Arduinos hadn't really been thought of back then. So you would have been actually building this, and hopefully it worked, and then you'd be able to use it to check the tuning on your radio. Now, what you'd normally hear, of course, is you'd just hear the carrier wave, so you'd hear it go fully quiet. Now, this radio has a BFO on it, so we're not going to get quite the same response. You'll actually hear a tone instead. So let's see if we can find the 4 harmonics. So I think I'm just below it here, so I'm just going to gently tune up. I've got it set to 500 hertz steps. Don't know how well you can hear that. So you can see we've got a full scale, yeah, full scale tone there. That's probably deafening you. Sorry, I'll move on, and dies away fairly quickly. So there you go. You'll be able to, you know, I'm moving in 500 hertz steps here, but remember a QRP rig with just some manual tuning of a capacitor, that'd be very clearly a marker. So that's the first harmonic. Let's see if we can now find the second one. So I'm going to take the easy route to get up there. It's going to be 8.8 something. So there we are at 8.836. So it's going to be, I think, about 8.7. Here we go. So you can see the second harmonic there. Yeah, it's still a strong signal, but it isn't quite as punchy as it was on the fundamental, which of course is what the spectrum analyzer was telling us as well. But you can to me that isn't quite as loud. Appreciate you're listening through a microphone, so it's maybe not ideal, but you get the gist. Okay, let's move off that, and finally let's see if we can find anything a bit further up. So we'll try up on 17 megahertz, so let's go up to 17, and okay, so let's now wind our way up, probably about 740, I think, something like that. Yeah. So although it's still a strong signal, you can see it's nowhere near as loud, which is exactly what the spectrum analyzer was telling us. Anyway, one thing we can say is it would be more than possible to use that oscillator to calibrate your homebrew rig with its analog tuning. There you go. Well, thanks very much for indulging me in my nostalgia trip. Simple though that little Colpitts oscillator is, it would have been incredibly useful to people who were homebrewing things, and although I showed it you on a receiver with a digital display, of course the kind of things I was homebrewing 30 years ago didn't have that kind of display. That was the province of commercial manufacturers and people who were a lot smarter than me. So I hope that's been interesting. Might even prompt you to have a go at building something like that. Thanks very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.